Shevet Achim Gam Yachad. Hine ma tov u'manai. Shevet Achim Gam Yachad. Hine ma tov u'manai. Shevet Achim Gam Yachad. Hine ma tov u'manai. Shevet Achim Gam Yachad. Shabbat Shalom and welcome to one and all, to those of you who are here in person and those of you who are here on Zoom. Behold how good and how pleasant it is for all of us to be together. I'm Rabbi Michael Feshbach. I'm delighted to be joined by the director of, the Minister of Music and Arts from down the street, from the St. Thomas Reformed Church, Chanel Schaefer, who is with us during the time that Gilchrist is away, but is always, always welcome here, lending vocal as well as musical support tonight. But tonight, I also want to thank Rigo on tech. You see Layla here, but Layla is not here to do streaming tonight. She may help with it, but she is here for vocal support, as is Jennifer Arellano, who will also be a congregant reader for part of the liturgy tonight. And we are also going to hear a little bit from my wife, Julie Novick, as well. So it takes a village to help me sing on key. And therefore, we all come together with all of our spirit, our energy, our enthusiasm. Candles will be lit this night by Carol Rich. The Kavanah, the English introduction leading into the candle lighting, is on page 121. Then Carol will light the candles, assuming the flamethrower works, and then we return to the bracha, the candle blessing, on page 120.
O source of light and truth, creator of the eternal law of goodness, help us to find knowledge by which to live. Lead us to take the words we shall speak into our hearts and our lives. Bless all who enter this sanctuary in need, all who bring the offerings of their hearts. May our worship lead us to acts of kindness, peace, and love. Working so well.
I'm not sure if it's the parking, the lack of air conditioning, the location, or the lighting, getting both candles lit. That's the most challenging part of services here.
But I have an idea.
Well, that might work. Brilliant. Nice. Okay. Baruch atah Adonai. I have not forgotten our pre-COVID custom in this congregation of having many candles down below, and all of us come together to light it. We will return to that when safe to do so. We continue now pages 124 through 127, a selection of any of those readings in personal prayer. Kabbalat Shabbat, the psalms and songs with which we welcome Shabbat. We begin with Psalm 95 on page 130 and jump to 131 for Psalm 96. Come, let us sing joyously to Adonai. Sing unto God a new song. L'chun ranana l'Adonai, shiru l'Adonai, shir chadash. L'chun Nekad mafanav betodah. Naria, Naria, letzor yishenu, bizmirot Naria lo. Lechu neranena, lechu neranena, lechu neranena, Adonai. Lechu neranena, lechu neranena, lechu neranena, Adonai. 131. Shiru l'Adonai, Shiru shir chadash, Shiru l'Adonai, kol haaretz, Shiru l'Adonai, Shiru shir chadash, Shiru l'Adonai, kol haaretz, Shiru l'Adonai, baruchu shemo. Basru miyom leyom Yeshuato. Shiru l'Adonai baruchu shemo. Basru miyom leyom Yeshuato. Lechu neranena, lechu neranena, lechu neranena l'Adonai. Lechu neranena, lechu neranena, lechu neranena l'Adonai. Thank you all. On page 135, towards the bottom, the last paragraph in Hebrew, the words mean exalt Adonai, our God. Most of you have heard me say this before, but you can know the Hebrew even if you don't know the Hebrew. If you remember, President Clinton's chief of staff had some sharp edges to him, became mayor of Chicago. I think he's an ambassador now. What's his name? Rahm Emanuel. It's an Israeli family, and the word Ram means lift up. If you are saying something too quietly in an Israeli classroom, the teacher will say to you, Od Pam, Bakol Ram, say it again in a loud voice. Romamu then means elevate, exalt Adonai our God, and bow toward God's holy hill. Romamu Adonai Eloheinu. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu v'hishtachavu lehar kodsho. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu v'hishtachavu lehar kodsho. Ki Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu romemu. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu romemu. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu v'hishtachavu lehar kodsho. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu v'hishtachavu lehar kodsho. And on page 138, stanzas 1, 2, 5, and 9, we continue with Lecha Dodi.
Hadodi, likrat kala, nepane shabbat nikabala. Hadodi, likrat kala, nepane shabbat nikabala. Shamor b'zachor b'dibur echad, ishmi anu el amichad, Adonai echad, l'shem l'itferet v'liti laila 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 l'cha dodi likrat kala panei shabbat nikabala l'cha dodi likrat kala panei shabbat nikabala likrat shabbat lechu v'nelcha Ki me'ikar habracha merosh mikedem nesucha Sov ma'aseh mamav Shabbat laila chadodi likrat kala panei Shabbat nikabala Lecha dodi likrat kala Panei Shabbat nikabala. Hitoreri, kiva orekumi ori shedaberi, kebodanai alai, lekadodi, likrat kala. Panei Shabbat nikabala Lecha dodi likrat kala Panei Shabbat nikabala Boi v'shalom ateret bala Gam b'simcha tov v'sola Tov emunei am sigula Boi kala Elai l'chadodi likrat kala Panei Shabbat nikabala L'chadodi likrat kala Panei Shabbat nikabala
Shkar. Thank you. Towards the bottom of page 141, the last major paragraph that is not indented together. The ocean sounds Adonai. The ocean sounds its thunder. The ocean sounds its pounding. Above the thunder of the mighty waters, more majestic than the breakers of the sea, is Adonai, majestic on high. Your decrees are indeed enduring. Holiness befits your house, Adonai, for all times. Chatzi Kaddish, page 144. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, ve'alma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon uvyomechon, uvchaye dechol beit Yisrael, bagala, bagala, uvizman kariv, v'meru, amen. Yehei Shmei Rabba Mevorach, Leolam Lol Me'almaya, Yitbarach, Yitbarach, V'yishtabach, V'yitbar V'yitromam V'yitnaseh, V'yitadar V'yitalev V'yitalal, Shmei D'Kedusha B'richu, Leila Min Kol Birchata V'shirata, Tushbechata V'nechemata, Damiran be'alma v'meru, amen. The next time you are stuck in a long line at an airport or trying to check out of fruit bowl and unable to leave, or when you're looking for something in a store and you can't find it, although always you can find it there, remember the reading on the bottom of page 145, because any moment, any place together, entrances to holiness are everywhere. The possibility of ascent is all the time, even at unlikely times and through unlikely places. There is no place on earth without the presence. Baruch Hu. The next page, please rise.
Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach, HaMevorach, Leolam Vaed. HaMevorach, HaMevorach, Leolam Vaed.
The top of page 149.
Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Your wisdom sets the way on which the time and season glide. Your breath guides the sail of the stars, creator of the tide of time and light. You guide the current of the day into night. As heaven spans to infinity, you set its course for eternity. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Baruch atah Adonai hama'arev avarim.
And the top of page 151.
As you taught Torah to those whose names I bear, teach me Torah too. Its mystery beckons, yet I struggle with its truth. You meant Torah for me, as you did. Did you mean the struggle for me too? Don't let me struggle alone. Help me to understand, to be wise, to listen, to know. Lead me into the mystery. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Israel.
Page 152 for Shema. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Hashem Kevod Malchuta Leolam. Please be seated. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol me'otecha ve'hayu advarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam B'shivtecha b'veitecha uv'lechtecha v'derech uv'shochbecha uv'kumecha u'kshartam le'ot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot b'neinecha uchtavtam al mezuzot beitecha uv'isharecha leman tiskeru Vasitem et kol mitzvotai, vitem kedoshim lelohechem. Ani Adonai Elohechem, asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim, liot lachem lelohim. Ani Adonai Elohechem. Adonai Elohechem emet. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there, except by joining hands, marching together. Page 158, Mi Chamocha. Mi Chamocha Ba'elim Adonai, Mi Chamocha Nedar B'Kodesh, O Sefele, Nora Tehilot, O Sefele, Malchutecha Ra'u vanecha, Bokei hayam lifnei Moshe u'Miriam, Ze'eli anu ve'amru, Adonai imloch, Adonai imloch, Le'olam va'ed. ונאמר כיפת אדוני את יעקב, וגאלו מאז חזק ממנו, ברוך אתה אדוני, גאל ישראל. The bottom of page 161. Give us a place to rest, Adonai, our God. Bring us into shelter in the soft, long evening shadows of your truth together. For with you are true protection and safety, and in your presence are acceptance and gentle love. Watch over us as we go forth. Prepare for us as we return. Spread over us your shelter of peace, over all we love, over our Jerusalem and yours. Baruch atah Adonai, apores sukat shalom aleinu, ve'al kol amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim. V'shambru, page 162.
Vishamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat lazot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. Vishamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat lazot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם.
Page 163 on the top together. We are a people in whom the past endures, in whom the present is inconceivable without moments gone by. The Exodus lasted a moment enduring forever. What happened once upon a time happens all the time. As we continue with the Amidah, just after I gestured to Leila to be seated, we continue page 164. Please rise. Adonai, Sefatai Kivka, Uthia, Eternal God, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu Limotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, Zekonei Hakol, V'zocher Chastei Avot v'Imahot, Umevi Geula Livnei V'neihem, Le'ma'an Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Oser U'Moshia U'Magen, Baruch Atah Adonai, Magen Avraham, Bezrat Sarah, Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Mechaye Hakol, Atah Rav LaHoshia, Mashiv HaRuach U'Morid HaGashem, Mechalkel Chaim B'Chesed, Mechaye Hakol B'Rachamim Rabim, Somech Noflim B'Rofei Cholim, Umatir Asurim, Umekayem Emunato, Lishenei Afar, Michamocha Bal Gevurot, Umido Melach, Melech Memit Umechaye, Umatzmiach Yeshua, V'neman Atah Lachayot HaKol, Baruch Atah Adonai, Mechaye Hakol, Atah Kadosh V'Shimcha Kadosh, Kadoshim B'chol Yom Yehalalu Chasela, Baruch Atah Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh. We continue the next several pages in personal prayer. Page 178, Shalom Rav.
Shalom Rav, Shalom Rav, Tasim Le'olam. Shalom Rav, Shalom Rav, Tasim Le'olam. Ki atahum mekadam. Sorry.
Shalom Rav once.
Shalom Rav, Shalom Rav, Tasim Le'olam. Shalom Rav, Yisrael Rav, Tasim Le'olam. V'tov b'nei Le'olam Barek, et Hama Yisrael. Bechel et Urnetzecha, Bechel Lechacha. Shalom Rav, Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Le'olam. Shalom Rav, Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Le'olam. Tasim Le'olam. Tasim Le'olam.
We continue for another moment of personal prayer. The bottom of page 180 for Oseh Shalom. Oseh
Shalom Brahma,
Uyaseh Shalom Aleinu.
Va'el Yisrael, Vimru, Himru, Amen. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu, Elnu Yisrael. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu, Vilka Israel. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu, Vilka Israel. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu, Vilka Israel.
With deep thanks to everyone who is stepping forward to lift up all of our voices. There may be one or two restrictions lifted in the territory as of 5 p.m. this afternoon, but many others remain in place. It is the other day, for a moment, I forgot. I left my house without the mask and had to go back for it. It is, we so much want to be past this, and we are not. And so we turn to the prayer for healing. Mishaberach Avotenu Avraham Yitzchak Yaakov. V'imotenu Sarah Rivka Rachel v'Leah. V'yivarech v'yirapeh et hacholim ha'eleh. O God, who blessed our ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, send your blessing and healing, your comfort and your hope to all those whose names appear on the service sheet before us. And in addition to those names, or even including them if you would like, we add the following: those of our friends, those of our family, those of our loved ones who are ill and in need of our attention. First from me, then from you here in the congregation, and then any names that you would like to add in the prayer for healing from those who are with us on Zoom. Rachel Korazim, Ronnie Lockhart, Sandra Rowland, Ben Yates Lonsky, anyone on Zoom?
Salabi.
Aparna Nagpal.
Eugene Bradshaw.
Ray McAndrew, Alan
Any prayer for healing, anyone on Zoom?
Cyril Eck.
Okay,
Lori-
there,
Lori,
but I can't see that, so do you want to read it out loud? If you're sending it to the chat, I can't see it. Oh, it's not going through the sound system. Okay, we'll fix that at some point. My apologies, hopefully by Kaddish. Baruch atah Adonai, Rofeh Cholim. We praise you, O God, who helps us heal, who brings us comfort. Friends, the most enduring part of this week's Torah portion, the most prominent lesson in it, other than the fact that there is a chapter this week which is depicted in more paintings about the Bible than any other. For this week, we have in this week's portion, Rebecca at the well. But other than that, perhaps the most enduring lesson from this week's portion comes from the very name of the portion. For the name of the portion is Chaye Sarah, which means the life, or technically it's plural, so it means the lives of Sarah. And the portion opens with her death. This leads, of course, to speculation and interpretation. The most common lesson taken from this is the following: you cannot tell the story of a person's life until it is over. Astonishingly enough, people in their 70s, people in their 80s, people in their 90s may learn new things, do new things, begin new ventures, go on new journeys. Abraham, after all, last week was circumcised at age 99 and then had kids. And then when Sarah dies after this week's portion in the middle of it, remarries and has several other kids in his early, never mind. You cannot tell the full story of a life until it is over. I'm reminded of that lesson when I come across the important work of a psychologist who we mentioned in class on Tuesday night in our Foundations for a Thoughtful Judaism Shalom Hartman Institute classes. The psychologist is Erik Erikson. Did we talk about that on Tuesday night, or was it maybe actually it was Torah study on Shabbat morning? I'm getting my Zoom calls mixed up, but don't worry, it's not a sign of age. It's just Zoom confusion. Erik Erikson wrote a tremendous work, but then he had to write another book after it. Erikson's insight was to say that there are stages in every person's life that we go through. From our very moment of birth, either we cry and either we are fed and comforted or we are not. And as a result of what you do as parents in the first months of your child's life, no pressure for when, God willing, if you want to, you become parents, your child will ever after that have an inclination towards the world of either the world is basically a trustworthy place or it is a place that you need to fear. Trust versus mistrust as the first stage of the life cycle. Then he wrote very insightfully about teenagers. And by the way, in a way which shows why the pandemic has been so very difficult for teenagers. Because the life cycle challenge for teenagers, have you ever seen a group? There is no mall here. I don't know what to make of you. Don't worry. Don't listen to this part. Listen to everything else. You ever seen a group of teenagers in a mall? What if they just shouted at their parents? I'm an individual. And then they go to the mall, they look the same, they talk the same, they walk the same, they dress the same, right? What is going on? What this stage of life is called is differentiation and individuation. It's the time when you try to decide who you are. So you pull away from the gravity of the family of origin, but the first thing you have to do before you decide that you really are an individual is you are pulled into a gravity of another group. And so the pandemic, with everybody being at home and not being able to be in personal touch and not being able to break away, has been particularly challenging for the psychology of teens. Erikson goes through the life cycle, talks about the stage in our life of generativity, of when we're founding businesses or firms or are at our most creative, and then the stage of connection. It's a wonderful journey through life, except that as he got older, he had to write another book. And the other book was called The Life Cycle Completed. And the stage that he added that wasn't in his original outline was the following: integrity versus despair. Now, some of us are adopted, some of us are biological children, but ironically, even for adopted children, you know that moment when you look in the mirror and you see your parents staring back at you? How is that for adopted children? The mannerisms, the way you communicate, your facial expression, right? You ever had that moment? You look in the mirror and you see your parents. Well, there is that moment in time at some point in the life cycle when we look back at our lives and we see either one of two things. Either that sense of, these are the choices I made, these are the partners I picked, and it was meant to be. Everything flowed together. This is the story of my life. It comes together with a feeling of integrity. And there are those who in old age look back and all they see are the roads not taken, the opportunities missed, the shoulda, woulda, couldas of life. And that leads to a sense of despair. The final challenge of our lives. And yet what religious leaders, what clergy will tell us from different faith traditions is that one of the purposes of coming together in a spiritual sense for Jews, for Muslims, for Christians, for any spiritual community of meaning, you don't have to wait until you're in your 70s, your 80s, your 90s. Some of what we do in coming together is to provide a framework where we get to ask that question earlier on in life. Does everything flow together? Is there a sense of meaning? Not that everything had to be exactly that way, but that the way it is makes sense. Or is there a sense only of the doors that are closed and the roads not taken? Integrity versus despair. We can't know the story of a life until it is over because we are always capable of new things, but we can give meaning and power and our purpose to lives, to our lives, if we choose to do so at any stage along the way. Shabbat Shalom. Please join us tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock for a brief Shabbat morning service, online only, followed by Torah study. I do want to let you know that we are aware of the pending retreat on the mainland, falling back on November 7th, the time change. And therefore, while services next week will still be 6:30, as of November 12th, we are going to 7 p.m. Atlantic time, which will be 6 p.m. Eastern time. Is anybody still on Zoom? Okay, some of those people presumably are on the mainland. They're not all Zooming from right just down the hill. So 7 p.m. as of November 12th. And on Shabbat morning, we will be moving from 10 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. here, which will be 9:30 a.m. on the East Coast. So that is our timely, as it were, announcement for tonight. I would like to ask any volunteers to open the Ark tonight? Yes, Marilyn. All right, think about it. Goldbergs, you were looking at each other. So Marty and Carolyn, if you'll open the Ark in a moment. Marilyn.
I'd like us all, if we could, to cast our healing thoughts to those people, and hopefully we can hear their names as they call them out now. So those of you who had names for people for healing, we are all thinking of you and casting our healing energies. And if you want to call out the names, hopefully we can hear you. Well,
Ray McAndrew, Alan Kossoff, Cyril Eck.
Yeah, that's Mel Eck. I can name the 3 names that he's sharing. Yes.
Thank you, Rabbi.
So
Not anybody I know.
Eugene Bradshaw.
Aparna Nagpal.
So thank you, Marilyn. I do not know why the microphone is not, the unmuting and it's not working over Zoom. Did you figure it out? Okay, we'll talk about it later. And if one of you guys can let James know that that did not work tonight, we will try again for Kaddish in a few minutes. Marty and Karen, will you open the ark doors as we continue with Aleinu on the bottom of page 586. It's been very humid, so it may stick a little bit more than usual, but please rise. It's the magic ark. No, it's Marty, you were correct at first. You're using your sort of fingernails from that door. There we go. Excellent. Thank you. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, latet gedula liotzer bereshit, shelo asanu kugoye ha'aratzot, velo samanu kamishpachot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkenu kahem, v'goralenu kechol hamonam, v'anachnu korim, ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. As we close the ark doors, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד הארץ, ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו בגובהי מרומים. Hu Eloheinu ein od emet malkeinu efesu lato kakatuv betorato v'yadata hayom v'hashevota el levavecha ki Adonai hu ha'Elohim b'shamayim Ve'al haaretz mitachat ein od ve'ne'emar v'haya Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz bayom hahu yeh Adonai echad Ushemo. It is a fearful thing to love what death can touch. A fearful thing to love, hope, dream, to be, and to lose. A thing for fools this, and a holy thing to love. For your life has lived in me. Your laugh once lifted me. Your word was gift to me. To remember this brings painful joy. 'Tis a human thing, love. A holy thing to love. What death has touched. We remember at this time those of our congregation's beloved whose yahrzeit occurs on this Shabbat. Deborah Berkowitz, Rabbi Murray Blackman, Minnie Kaplan, Caroline Kaufman, Jacob Jack Leibowitz, Frank Lick, Juliet Rachel Monison, Joan Nelthrop, Roberta Portnoy, Alfred Sparky Puritz, Ralph E. Schneider. We observe yahrzeit of the following high members and those dear to our high members: Bob Abelman, Arthur Ackerman, Simi Aflalo, Miriam Azer, Lena Baum, Leon Burke, Anthony Carragher, Isidore Cohen, Julia Tobol Cohen, Muriel Cutler, Shelley Feinberg, Joseph Ben Zalman Feldman, Adolf Friedman, Louis Gerstel, Nathan Ginsburg, Kay Goodman, Herbert Gordon, Simon Greenberg, Norman Hinchy, Jacob Huberman, Ivor Isikoff, Morris Tchaikovsky, Rose Jaffe, Lily Callens, Vasya Bas Joseph Kaplan, Shirley Friedman Kaplan, William Carroll, Joseph Kirschner, Wolf Loudon, Edith C. Lehrer, Hilda Lerner, Lori Levy, Melvin Lieber, Tammy Lipsietz, Carol Locker, Irving P. Matos, M. Hughes Miller, Carol London Merkin, Sam Middleman, Frida Mogul, Jerome Moskowitz, Albert I. Knappen, Ethel Newman, Ray Niedergang, Dorothy Niskar, Ray Poders, Jacob David Relkin, Francoise Richards, Dr. Frederick Rosemore, Joan Rosen, Sam Rosenberg, Polly Rosenthal, Shirley Rubenstein, Martha Schaefer, Alice Scher, Dolores Schneider, William Schneider, Judith Nehemkin Side, Dolores Sobel, Perry Sova, Rachel Spiz, Jordan Testa, Jan Gardner Warnix, Michael Uruski, Bruce Zaxter. Before I continue with Shloshim and recent deaths, are there any other names from anyone on Zoom or in here that you would like to share? Marilyn, just read it out loud.
Robert Steverson,
Ronit Lavi,
Ruth Novick. And for Shloshim, Dr. Mindy Patakoff-Weinman, Dr. Stephen Richardson. With sorrowing hearts, we mention one who passed away very recently, Charles Arthur, the husband of Deborah Graulich. The memories of all of our loved ones are with us. Our griefs and sympathies are mingled. As we turn now to Kaddish Yatom, the mourner's Kaddish, page 598. And as is tradition in most Reform synagogues, we rise as a congregation as a whole for the Kaddish itself. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, v'alma tivrach kerotei v'amlich malchutei, v'chaye chon uvyom echon uv'chaye techol Beit Yisrael, ba'agala uvizman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbam vorach leolam olmei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitale v'yitalal shmei dekudusha barichu, Le'ela min kol birachata v'shirata, dush b'chata v'nechamata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn in this congregation, here in person, all those connected to us, and all those who are suffering the pain of loss everywhere. And together, let us say, Amen. Shabbat Shalom, as we will attempt to fix the tech and hopefully not have as interrupted or disrupted a service next week. And we will try to get through the service with fewer than 20 text messages as well. Let us turn to page 625. Julie is joining me here for the Uzi Hitman Hasidic Song Festival setting of Adon Olam. Those of you who are from New York should be able to handle the fast part here. We will see how Chanel is from New York, but I meant vocally. I don't know how fast your fingers can play once we get to the accelerated, but it starts slow. Adon Olam, page 625. One sec, sorry.
Don't close the book.
Yeah, I just thought you had it memorized.
I do, but the one time,
Well, that's right.
the one time I forget it will be now probably. So
Of
let's-
course.
I-
Sorry, 1 second. There we go.
Okay.
Okay.
Adon Olam, Hashem alach, b'terem kol, Yitzir nivra, Lek nasa, b'hefsakol, Azai melech, Shemo nikra, נעשה בחפצה כל אזי מלך שמו נקרא אחרי לבנות הכל לבדי ובנות נורא הוא היה והוא הווה ותפאר אדון עולם אשר מלך בטרם כל יציר נברא עת נעשה בחפצה כל אזי מלך שמו נקרא אחרי לבנות הכל לבדי לבנות נורא והוא היה והוא הווה ותפארך והוא היה והוא הווה ותפארך. Do we do one more?
Let's leave it there.
Okay.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Please join us for Kiddush, and we can